Welcome to the Metal Mitten. Tonight we have Joey Sturgis, mixer, producer, and entrepreneur, someone that has helped shape early 2000s metalcore, working with bands such as Lee Kana's Romans, The Devil Wears Prada, Of Mice and Men, Conquer Divide. The list goes on and on. He's also had a hand in creating lots of modern plugins and Nail the Mix, URM Academy, Drum Forge. Honestly, the list goes on, and I'm looking at all these notes, and I can't get into all of it, but that's what we plan on doing tonight. We're honored to have him. Let's get into it. Hey,
What
how's it going, everyone? Joey, thanks for being with us today, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man. It's an honor for sure. Uh, what a uh, what a portfolio, man. Do you look back on any of that stuff like, wow, feels like yesterday, right?
It does. It feels like yesterday, but also feels like a lifetime ago in a way. One of the things that I have recently like what I like to do is I'll go to people's Spotify profiles and just make sure that one of my songs is at least still in their top 5 or 10.
There you go. There you go. Right.
Because a lot of these bands, they still exist and they still make music, and I haven't, there's a lot of bands that I did a lot of albums with but haven't worked with in a while, so I'm always watching for that. But I took a break, rightfully so, around 2015. One of my last albums that I worked on was that Asking Alexandria record without Danny. Dennis was the vocalist on it, and around that same time was when JST Drum Forge and URM started to take control of my time, and it made more sense to put time into those things than it did to continue making records. And so I went on to do that for a number of years, and now that those companies are doing pretty well and they're continuing to grow, I'm finding myself with more free time, and with that, I'm trying to get back in the saddle and work on more records. And just recently got a manager again, and I'm taking a stab at it. And I have a few projects that are out there in the world that I've done in the last couple of years, and I'm proud of those, and hopefully continue to make music. I think music is a part of me as a person, and it's what I'm good at, whether I'm running a company or working on an album. It's kind of all the same process in the sense that I try to just apply my knowledge and my creativity in one place, and I think it works well.
Yeah, I think definitely the transition from just full-time producing to where you are now. When did that start? When did you start dabbling with like the Sturgis tone idea and things like that? Was that at that 2015 mark, or had you been working on that for a while? And
Well, it actually goes all the way back to 2009, when I was working with, I think the first band that I really did this with, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure it was We Came as Romans. We were recording, and our approach to like the drums was like, maybe it was For the Fallen Dreams. It was like For the Fallen Dreams, We Came as Romans, one of those bands where like we were recording the drums so meticulously that I was like, let's just also record all of the drum samples, so that just in case anything goes wrong, like I can replace a drum fill and it'll still sound exactly like all of the performances. And so there's a whole process to that. And I was doing it kind of regularly. Like any band that would come in and had enough time, I would be like, let's make these drum samples. And the thing that was funny about it is like the amount of work that goes into creating something like that is like several days, like maybe like 5 6 days. And all it would really buy me is like a couple of fixes on the album. And what I realized is like all that work going into those drum samples, was basically not being put to good use. You know, I was like being used like a couple times on an album, and then it sits on my hard drive to rot forever. And I was like, what if I could just put this on a website and somebody would buy it? So I tried that, and lo and behold, people purchased it. So then I was like, okay, this is kind of like a repeatable process. As long as there's like some kind of interesting angle to it, like maybe the drums are different or there's some kind of special approach to the process or whatever it is. So I started doing that, and I did that for a number of years until people were bugging me on Twitter, and they were like, how do you get your guitar tones? How do you, do your bass tones, blah, blah, blah. And I got bothered enough to the point where I was like, I literally can't even answer all of these every day. So what if I just make the presets, because I'm using like a pod farm or a pod XT or whatever. It's like, what if I just like export that file out of my unit and then put it as a digital download and sell that? And so I tried that for a while, and that worked out. Um, and then my friend hit me up. Is actually somebody that works with me on a lot of these records, Nick Sampson. He's a producer in his own right. Um, he called me one day and was just like, dude, you should make a plugin. And I was like, nah, that sounds like, because I have a software engineering background. In high school, I went to these like computer classes and learned how to like code and wrote my own websites and wrote computer software and made my own games. And I have like software engineering skills. And that's why he would suggest something like that to me. Like he wasn't just like, talking shit or, shooting something out of the dark. He was just like,
Right.
he's like, you should make a plugin. And I was like, nah, dude, I'm not, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. And sure enough, like a couple months later, I was like, ah, man, I don't have anything to do. Maybe I should make a plugin. So I started messing around with it. And yeah, long story short is I did that for like 6 months and came up with gain reduction, which is the first plugin that we launched. And I didn't know what was going to happen with it. I just kind of threw it up similarly to what I was doing with everything else, right? Like the drum samples, I just threw those up. The pod farm presets, just threw those up. So it was the same kind of deal. I was like, all right, I got a plugin that I kind of, created out of on a whim or whatever, and just threw it up on my website. And man, did it get a lot of purchases and whatnot. So that was how everything kind of came together, is that it was just sort of organically unrolling out of my activities in between recording bands or in between studio sessions or whatever. Like I was just kind of doing these things on the side and throwing them up on my website. And I luckily had enough traction and enough attention back then to where it was like, people were checking, they were going to my website, they were buying the stuff, and they were using it and they were liking it. So that's kind of how it all began, really.
That's cool, man. It's crazy. Like the journey had to been just it's crazy. I just can't imagine like going from what you were doing. You're like, all right, well now, I'm gonna dabble in this. And then you start seeing like the interest that, the people were showing and now look at it. It's like you're doing with the nail the mix and your tones uh and I think it's cool that you still stay grounded and you still know yourself, from the early days of producing and still have that idea that you're like, hey, I'm not done with that. I can go back to that anytime I want or pull special projects or um you fit it all in.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of like opportunities, and not to say that I'm not grateful for them. I definitely do appreciate all the attention and interest that I get around people wanting to do stuff with me. Um, but the reality of the situation is that, uh, like around 2000, let's see, it was probably like let's see, it had to have been like 2014 or so. I had to kind of figure out what the hell I was doing in life. I had one of those moments, you know, where I was
Yeah,
just
Yeah.
yeah.
like, what the hell am I going to do forever? And I had like this epiphany, which was like, you know, I basically everything that I do like helps people create great music. And once I had that sentence in my head, everything made sense. It was like, that's why I make software. That's why I make drum samples. That's why I teach people. That's why I do Creative Live. That's why I have URM Academy. That's why I have Joey Sturgis Tones. That's why I make albums. It's why I work with labels. It's why I work with bands. Like everything clicked. I was like, okay, my purpose is to help people create great music. And
Right.
so I do that in a lot of different ways. And that synchronicity that came from that statement helped me align myself to like pretty much anything coming at me. Because I also have people in my inbox like saying, like, hey, I've got this crazy idea for a business. And like I can look at it and be like, does that help me help people create great music? If the answer is no, then my answer to them is no. you
Right.
know? And so now that I have that like compass, it's just super easy to navigate like a lot of scenarios. And I kind of like lean on that to help me like stay out of you know, infinite project hell where it's like, you know, hey, here's a cool idea. What do you think? And I'm like, well, it doesn't really help me make like help people make great music. So it's not a good idea for me.
That's cool. Do you ever have like a spin-off of people that are creating on their own, just asking for advice, like maybe not necessarily even, making their own tones or producing, but just from the entrepreneurial aspect of your life and just reaching out saying, kind of a coaching technique, right?
Yeah, I always give advice when I can. I think that there's plenty of people who have lots of aspirations and you know big goals, and there's no shortage of that. And I think that's something that's really good. You know, you need to have a big vision to be working towards in your life. Um, Otherwise, it's sort of pointless, right? So whenever I can, and whenever somebody reaches out to me in that kind of idea, I'm like trying to help them in whatever way I can offer. Simply because I think my journey is unique. You know, I think
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of scenarios that most people don't get to do, and I've got to encounter a lot of really cool opportunities and take advantage of those opportunities that a lot of people don't get to do. So I try to offer up any I guess conclusions or advice that I can think of when people reach out to me, and it's funny because I think that a lot of people believe that I'm not reachable, but I'm extremely reachable. You can just DM me on Instagram or like send an email to my email address, which is pretty public knowledge at this point, and I will usually answer you. Um, Unless you're being weird. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out.
Everyone that never got a response, you were being weird.
Yeah.
Sean, I think I cut you off. Were you going to say something there?
No, no, no. I was gonna say earlier, your gain reduction plugin, I see that used a lot, and I a couple of years ago I bought your Skybox plugin. I've had lots of fun with that. The, using it on guitar tone and synth, and uh, it's a really cool plugin.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to do something like classic with reverb, but I also had to put a spin on it because it's like there's a million reverb plugins out there. And you know, there's one company that I won't mention who really owns the reverb space. And I was like, I need to do something that's kind of like out of like you know out of the box on this because otherwise like what's special about my plugin. And so I tried to get like creative with it in the sense that like how I am often creative in the recording sessions with my artists, you know, it's layers and layers of effects and layers of like experimentation. So I tried to create something with the Skybox plugin. The advanced mode is what I'm mostly talking about, where it has all those additional features that let you to do some really crazy stuff. But I appreciate that. And there's always these parallels that are drawn, right? Because people will look at the GUI and they'll be like, oh, it looks like a Strymon. It's like, is this a Strymon plugin? It's like, yes and no. There's some inspirations there. But I guess the biggest thing that I could say about the JST designs is that they're never like trying to copy something. We're always trying to do our own kind of thing. And one of the most, I guess, frustrating kind of conversations to have, especially on the amp sims, is like when people say like, well, what amp is this supposed to be? And we're just like, none of them.
A good one.
It's an amp that we invented like from scratch. So, just listen to it. But
yeah.
it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that, because that's like kind of saying like, okay, there's a new banana now. It's not the same banana that it tastes a little different, but it is a banana, but it's not a traditional banana. And then everyone wants to be like, well, I don't understand that. It's like, okay, well, you put your guitar through it and it amplifies your guitar and it sounds like this.
Yeah, I totally get it. Like most people that come from like the tube amp field and like go over to amp modelers or amp sims are kind of lost, and they're like they probably are asking that just because like they don't know. They just are oblivious to knowing what an amp sim is. But that was a hard field for me when I went from like just using physical amps, then going to like a line 6 tune port or a line 6 pod, and getting to learn. Like I was the type of guy that I had my amp, I had the dials, that was it, that's all I need. I never even had like a floor pedal. But then once I got into like amp modeling, I'm like, well, what's multi-band compression? What's EQ? I never used EQ, so it was like a lot of learning for me to go from the amp era to like modern day modeling and amp sims, and it's been quite the journey over the last 8 years. And uh, now I do use lots of effects because I had a lot more fun. But I kind of went off on a tangent there. But yeah, awesome products now.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think too, don't you think with like amp sims versus a physical rig, I think it all starts from that like bare bones sound, and then it's kind of branched off of that. It really amazes me just to see, even if you took just an amp sim straight out of the box and didn't do nothing to it, like you're saying, adding compression to it and delay, all these different things you can do. But I feel like from the start of that to where it ends up, that in between is so vast. It's like, oh my gosh, you could easily get lost in tone. And but at the same time, it's really amazing to see that very first sound that you created and say, wow, that it actually turned in from this, and now it's this. And it was just literally spending time with it, tweaking, right?
Yeah, I mean, guitar tone is not, there was a period of my career where I was very obsessed with like guitar tone, and I think everyone has that time where they go down a rabbit hole and they do a lot of digging and tweaking and learning and experimentation, iterating and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you're in the space of like creating the kind of records that I create, where everything is ultra maximized and like hyper present, you really don't have a lot of room for experimentation. There's not a lot of room for like, let me get creative with this. It's more about like, how can I just make sure that the guitar is distorted, it doesn't sound weird, and you can hear every note. Like those are the like three things that I'm concerned about. Um, and you will find that like with the type of technology and the gear that's available, there's really you're basically going to end up at the same result, um, no matter what, because you're going to get to that maximum point where it doesn't really shift. I mean, obviously you can make the tone like brighter or darker and have that be like a vibe. And that's like totally valid. And of course, there's going to be like your SM57 off axis versus your SM57 on axis. Like those are two different, completely different vibes. But the reality of the situation is that like the amp is the least important part of that chain. I think I would say the most important part is going to be whatever your dynamic processing layer is, whether that's compression, limiting, a combination of the two, or whatever in between, and your impulse response. Like those are the biggest pieces that really move the guitar tone across the goal line in the final product. Now you can argue about that all the way up to the final step, but when you get to the mastering stage and you're pushing, you know, zero point 0.1 decibels here and there, it just gets to the point where it's just totally maxed out. So I think there's a lot of good fun in pretending like, you know, oh, all this stuff matters, but it kind of doesn't. You know, like
Right.
when you get to the stage that I'm working in, where you're working in between -6 and -7 LUFS, I mean, a lot of this just doesn't matter. It just doesn't, unfortunately. You just get to the point where you're really just trying to make everything fit like a very, very tight puzzle, and the guitar only has one shape. Um, Now, can I change the vibe of it? Sure, I can, but it's still going to get maximized out, like to the point where a lot of those, you know, it's almost to the point where like I could open a mix that's completely optimized and just ready to go, right? And
Yeah.
then just switch out the amp, and you'd be surprised that it probably just sounds the same. Like that's the thing, that's the reality of it, is that like, I mean, if I use a completely different amp, like a I don't know, a blues amp or something, yeah, it is going to sound different, but at the same time, you're still going to hear every note. It's still going to be just as loud as it was before, you know. So I think that it's kind of a romance, right? Where it's like it's your instrument and you care a lot about what goes into it and how it sounds and how it's presented, and rightfully so, because that's your domain. That's the place where you live. It's where it's how you are represented as a musician. So you're going to care a lot about your amp and your speakers and your settings and your pedals and your cables and how you tune your guitar, the strings you use, blah 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 blah. But you know, I think, and all that's really cool. I'm not discrediting any of that. I'm not trying to put anybody down. But I think that it's funny to see, like, you know, when we release a new product at JST, for example, like a new guitar tone plugin or something, you will literally see two comments right next to each other. One comment will say, "This is the best amp sim I've ever used," and the next comment would be like, "This is the worst thing I've ever heard." And it's just like, how, like at this stage of the game, after being a company for 12 years and really figuring this stuff out and having the top of the line DSP, you know, we write all of our own code. We've been experimenting since day one. You can't have those, that just doesn't make sense, you know.
Right, right.
Those two things next to each other don't make sense. So the area of focus is not the subjectivity, you know. I think the area of focus is like, do you actually understand the tools? Do you know what you're doing with them?
Yep.
And if you don't, that's fine. Like you're just not in that place. But don't come and criticize our products in a way that sounds just like you know, ultra complete, or whatever, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
I could go into the world's best restaurant and be like, that was the worst food I've ever ate. But like, is that really what is going on here? Because this
Right,
restaurant's been here for 30 years and the chef's been cooking his whole life. You know what I mean? So
right.
that's kind of how it like comes across online. And I think we've basically grown above it to the point where we're like, all right, you're just wrong. Like, and if and that's fine. Like I'm not going to like pick fights over it. I think our goal isn't necessarily to be the best, because I don't think there is a best. I think it's just more like create really good stuff and then people can use it how they want.
Yeah.
And it's not for everybody, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Those people that they can move on and maybe they'll find something else out there that works better for them. But at the end of the day, you have um a, a caveat of people that definitely are um enjoying it.
Didn't
Yeah.
you?
I mean,
Sorry.
I've not to cut you off, but I do feel a sort of validation through my work, right? Because number one, a pretty prominent producer, have good track record there. But secondly, is I know our stats. I'm very on top of the data. So, we have 115,000 global users, and we've sold a lot of plugins. Chris Lord Algae uses my stuff in every mix that he does. So to me, those kind of comments kind of just go in one ear and out the other, uh, and that's fine. I think it's more about just understanding that this, in the same way that you can hate a song and I can love a song, is the same way that I can also create a plugin that you love or hate. It's art, and it's not objective. You can't say like there's one best guitar amp or there's one best speaker. It's not true. It's impossible. So knowing that and going into this space with that knowledge, like in that headspace, gives you a lot of freedom to like create. And I think that's the important piece, at least for our team, is like, we might create a product that nobody cares about, but we did create a good product and it is useful for some people.
Mhm.
You recently did a amp sim with Dino from Fear Factory, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I was looking at that a month ago. My issue right now is I have so many amp sims. I'm like, do I really need another one?
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
uh,
Yeah, that's what everyone's living that dream right now.
yeah, like you got I swear it's like every day there's something like the new thing and like another video with Ola England testing out shit and but I try to stick with what I can use, what I know it sounds good, and but I'm all about trying out trials and I'm just really satisfied with how amp sims sound right now. Uh, just my personal opinion over the years, like when they first started with like Amplitude, I wasn't getting the itch from it that I want. But part of that, going back to what you were saying, was also my problem because I didn't know how to utilize it correctly. And I didn't know like there's so many little things that you can do to help improve the sound of an amp sim, whether it's uh, whether it's using a DI box or uh, boosting the DI or adding multi-band compression if you're getting muddiness in the low end. Like the list goes on and on and on. But I like right now, I had an XFX3 and I sold it. I'm like, get this out of here. There's too much confusion. So the amp sims are what I'm doing right now, and as long as I'm creating music and having fun, like that's the important thing. My issue with the Axe effects is it's like a labyrinth of effects and different ways of doing things, and like it's nice having an anthem to where it's pretty basic. What happens before and after it can be confusing, but just having that as a tool uh,
Yeah.
is good.
User friendly.
Yeah, I'm not impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean our approach to the whole amp sim problem was to do sort of the opposite of simulating an amp. It was more to basically give you an entire processing chain. So everything from what are the pedals that go before the amp, what
Mhm.
are the like what's the cab that comes after it, are there post effects, where do those sit in the chain, are they before the cab or after the cab, you know, what kind of limiting options are there limiters, are there compressors, are there like you said, low end compression, just to tame the low end, um, is there an EQ? So all of these kind of questions were answered in our design. And then with the Dino one specifically, we even answered an additional question, was like, what if your DI is a lot different than what Dino's DIs are like? Like, what if Dino's DIs are super bright and yours are really dark? That's not going to sound right. So we had the concept of DI match, where you could like take a profile of your DI signal and then and have it match to Dino's DI profile signal.
Right.
And then we have the concept of like tuning optimization. So a lot of amps are designed for E standard. What if you're playing in drop F, which is basically a whole octave down? It's like that amp is going to respond to that stuff like way differently, right? So
Right.
we created a tuning optimization, DI match, you know, this ability to like do dynamic EQ adjustments post amp, which is where you can get a lot of like, you can like kill resonant frequencies that are really harsh, like the 2K, 4K, 8K stuff. We introduced all those ideas into our design, and a lot of companies still haven't done anything like that. So I feel like it's a unique approach. Um, and it's an informed one because we did this based on not just Dino's experience, but Dino's engineers and also me. This is stuff that I do too.
Mhm.
So none of this is like a shot in the dark. This is all stuff that we actually do on records. Like it's on the Fear Factory records, it's on the records that Dino's engineer works on. Like he, you know, his engineer is a bass player uh for Dragon Force and works on a lot of really cool stuff. Obviously, I have my own track record. You all know what I've worked on. So between the all of our teams, like this all was a like a valiant effort where we are like, these are the kind of tools that people need if they're using this type of stuff. Like if you're saturating your guitar tone to this point, to this degree, you're going to need a resonant frequency killer. You're going to need, you know, uh, a sort of dynamic compressor in this way. And so those are the kinds of things that we baked into there. And it's all for the purpose of like helping you achieve the tone that you want to get, you know?
Mhm.
All this stuff is not, it can be turned on, it can be turned off, it can be you like there's all the in-betweens. You can have it at 100%, you can have it at 10%, you know, all it's all there. So it's just for at your disposal, basically.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So are you a fan of were you a fan of Fear Factory at all before working with
Oh
Dino
yeah.
or
It
okay.
was a dream come true to be able to do something with the brand, and especially with Dino, like and the fact that Dino sort of champions, or I guess I don't want to get into like the legal terms of it all, but I think he has control of the brand now, so that's really
Yeah, I
cool.
think so too. Yeah.
Right, so like it's like to be able to do that with somebody that you grew up like idolizing and listening to is like a really special treat. And also he was he was good to work with, but he was also very particular in the sense that like I'm glad that he pushed back on some of the iterations and some of the designs, because that tells me like he's tuned in, you know.
Mhm.
Somebody that reaches a certain level of success can obviously just be like, oh yeah, it's great, like let's go. um I like it when somebody is like, that's not good enough yet, because that tells me like that they really do care and they do have a stake in the game. And he was like that. So It was a treat to work with them, and I'm very proud of what we accomplished together. And I also really want to shout out his engineer, because without him, it wouldn't have been possible. You know, Dino is a technician of the guitar, but he is not a technician of the computer. So we did need somebody to help.
Yeah.
And luckily he had some really good people in his corner for that. So but yeah, it was a dream come true. I grew up listening to Fear Factory. I can remember being a little kid and just watching MTV2 and seeing them play on the beach, you know, and those whatever those spring break, what was that? Spring break metal stuff that was
Oh
going
yeah,
on
I
in
remember.
I think I remember.
MTV.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so just like seeing that stuff and just being like, man, this is so cool. Like I'm a huge metal fan, and then being able to like be where I am now and make those products, like it's absolutely awesome. And you know, I think the product speaks for itself, and that's what we aim to do. You know, it's like I don't really have to tell you a lot about it. Just go download the free trial, and I'm sure you'll see what we're talking about. You
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I
Exactly. Yeah.
that's so cool, man. I that's so funny that we talk about that too, because we were just talking about Fear Factory and Dino last episode, and just a pioneer of like early low tune guitar work, and he's got like a crazy right hand, just a really well-rounded guitar player. And I agree with you. I think the work that he did, that he does with Fear Factory, and then the Divine Heresy stuff, you could tell that he's been a leader in those projects, and a driving force, I think, you know.
Yeah, and also one of the most early, if not the earliest proponent of digital guitar tone in space. And that was something that we really, that's one of the biggest reasons why we did it with him, is that not only was he one of the first, you know, leaders in the technical metal guitar space, he was one of the first leaders in the digital guitar tone space.
Yeah,
And that's my whole career, like despite like maybe a few records, was all just digital guitar tones. So you know, when we looked at it, we were like, this is actually a really good match. You know, this is
yeah,
actually something that, from a storyline point of view or from a historical point of view, it makes a lot of sense that we would team up. Um, and we went with that. But, you know, we also kind of tried to do some legacy stuff. Like he has you know, the modded JCM 800 that we modeled, and it was stolen and then given back to him, and so there was a whole story there. So we we tried to like take advantage of that too.
that's cool. Yeah, that's crazy to get that kind of tone out of that amp too. That's kind of a staple from the early on days, the JCM 800,
I keep
which
hearing
makes
that.
sense. So for his the early Fear Factory era, what is that, 94 or something, or
Yeah,
before that maybe even?
yeah. I mean, almost no one kept it stock other than like, you know,
Yeah,
like ACDC or some shit.
right. Yeah, man. I was gonna say, yeah, me thinking of something there, talking about him too. Is you're a multi-instrumentalist yourself, right?
Yes. So I grew up learning drums, and then learned guitar, um, and just kind of picked up a lot of odds and ends on instruments. Just I think just music's in my blood, so it's not hard to pick up something and just try to figure it out. I think the weirdest instrument for me is violin. I can kind of do it, but it's strange. It's a strange instrument. But like things like trumpet, trombone, like piano, drums, guitar, bass, all that stuff's very straightforward for me. Um, but yeah, it's the woodwinds and the bow. Those are the weird ones for me. I can kind of do it, but I'm not that good.
Yeah, I'd like to try it. I'd like to think myself, just like you said, to be able to pick something up just because I'm a you know, I feel like I'm musically inclined enough to at least hear it and be able to figure it out, but I could see that being difficult.
I think
It's like
that
blowing on a flute, not using your mouth properly, or you know what I mean?
the biggest skill, like I think not just in music, but like kind of across the board is like having an ear. Uh, and it's one of the first things I teach when I'm talking about mixing is like if you can't hear why it's bad, you're in a lot of trouble. Um, that's the biggest thing that you need to be able to have is like the ability to hear when like something is too bright or something is not gelling or there, you know, the glue is all off. If you don't really hear those things and somebody has to tell you about it, you're not going to do well. um and the same thing happens with like performance. And I think what some of the reasons why, you know, a vocalist might be really really good at their craft is that they can just hear it so fast somehow, where it's like when as they're singing they can tell like, oh yeah, I'm flat, or like this is not, I'm not hitting this note right, or I'm, you know, they hear that and they adjust like in real time, and that's what makes them a good singer. It's the same thing, you know, across the board, but it's different layers of it, right? Because if I'm editing a vocal and it takes me, you know, a couple different times of listening through it back and going, oh, that's flat, that's sharp, that's early, that's late. I have a couple of different times where I have the time to sit there and kind of go through it. But when you're performing live, you have to do it right then and there. You have to do it fast. So it's like the people that are like really good singers, they're just super fast at that. That's what it is.
Yeah, that would be difficult to be able to catch it in real time almost, you know?
Yeah.
So is there any projects that the public maybe doesn't realize that you've worked on that you could tell us about? I'm just curious because you mentioned For the Fallen Dreams, and I didn't even realize that that was in your arsenal.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I did 2 records with them. Um, you know, I've done like a lot of the bands that I would work with uh over the years. I would usually do somewhere between 3 to 5 records per band.
Mhm.
So um yeah, I've been very fortunate in that regard, but I don't know if there's any like hidden gems, you know. It's like it's kind of all out there. Of
Yeah.
Mice and Men, We Came as Romans, Attack Attack, Asking Alexandria, The Devil Wears Prada, uh, Amir, For the Fallen Dreams, Oceano. Um, you know,
What
and
albums for Amir did you do? Just curious.
Speaker of the Dead, what's the arcade one?
Oh,
Um,
is it? It's not felony, is it?
no, it's like 2 3 records after that.
Yeah.
Here, let me pull up. Unfortunately, you know, when you do this many albums, you have to have Spotify
Yeah, definitely.
because I've done just too many
I think it
things.
starts with an A. It's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know.
I did Eternal Enemies, Speaker of the Dead, and one more, Slave to the Game.
That's
Oh,
sweet.
nice.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, like what I tell people often that, you know, in my 20s, I basically did an album every month for 10 years. So 100 albums, like you can say like give or take. So like 100 albums basically in 10 years I did 100 albums.
Damn.
Um yeah.
That's a lot.
So it is a lot. And I think that I have a unique, let's call it eclectic understanding of music because of that, you know,
Yeah.
because it's not all in one lane. Now all of it's rock and metal and, you know, hard aggressive music. So I wouldn't say that I have like a lot of knowledge in pop or R&B or hip hop or anything like that, but I do have an eclectic amount of knowledge in all of those different genres that are not those things. And
Mhm.
so like it's interesting for me because I kind of have, when I work with an artist, like I have to figure out like where the compass is and what the boundary lines are, because like my brain just goes in a lot of different directions. You know, I hear something and I'm like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, you could take it here, could take it there. And so I have to kind of figure out like what's the appetite of the band, like where are they trying to, you know, eat at? Is it Mexican food? Is it burgers? Is it pizza? You know, right?
Right.
Because I could just see so many possibilities. So I try to like get really good at doing the psychology thing, which is like, because the other part of it is that like an artist doesn't know, like they can tell you what they think they know or what they think they know, but in the end you might have to like kind of figure out what's the, yeah, do some like soul searching and figure out what's the thing about it that is going to not only be what's right for them but also something that they want to be doing. um and that's not always the answer that comes out of their mouth. So I do a lot of like, I don't know, like psychological digging to figure out what's the right thing for the band.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you I asked this with actually a couple, we've had a couple different engineers, producers on the show, and a question I always like to ask is how close of a relationship do you build with your clients when you, especially when you're doing multiple albums? You know, does it stay pretty business, or are you building friendships over that time frame?
I think for me, it's basically impossible to be business only um, when I'm producing. So, like, if I'm mixing or mastering, it's probably just going to be kind of like, you know, fairly transactional.
Mm,
Um, but if I'm producing a record, I mean,
right.
we're just short of living together, if not living together, which
Yeah.
means we're going out to eat pretty much every day. We are ingrained in our lives. We're sharing memes. We have group chats. We are, you know, we're
Yeah.
it's just super tight, and I think that that is the right way to do it. Um, Obviously, I do like one thing that I do say to a lot of my clients is I do need to have at least a little bit of time to myself.
Oh,
um because if I'm constantly in their sphere, I am unable to be objective in some scenarios. So I think that that's important to maintain that objectivity where I can kind of like continue to be the outsider. I love
mhm.
being the insider, don't get me wrong. But there are parts of this where I do need to be an outsider. I need to be outside looking in and analyzing what you guys might be doing wrong, or this perpetual thing that you have been pursuing is like maybe off track, and like I can help guide you or steer you in the right direction. If you're in the circle, it's hard to do that, right? So
Yeah.
that's one of the most important things that I try to look at. But I love being ingrained in the culture of the band, the friendship, the relationships, and a lot of the times they're very long. They're ongoing for long period of time. I mean, I haven't worked with We Came as Romans in like, I don't know, maybe like, how long has it been? 10 years, 12 years, and I still hang out with them. So it's like some of these things are like they're more like family in a sense. And I hope to get to work with some of these bands again now that I'm sort of like making myself available. I just had dinner with David Puckett, who's the drummer of We Keep His Romans, recently, and we were talking about like doing a song again and like how that might work. And so there's some of these like conversations are starting to come back out of the dirt, and I'm really excited to like maybe try and put my own modern spin on what some of these bands have grown to do after the albums that we worked on.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Like just to be able to go back to it and possibly having a completely different approach that, you know, from then till now, you know, you might be a completely different sound altogether. Who knows?
Well, I've also grown a lot in the time that I took off, because one of the things about doing 100 records in a row is like you kind of create a factory, and the factory just stamps the metal and does the thing. And then taking time off and stepping away, one of the first things that I gained when I came back was like the ability to hear a song without prejudice. And that's something that I didn't have before. When you're really in the thick of the game, like you hear a song with prejudice, which basically means like you've already prejudged it, you've already thought about who produced it, or even if you didn't know who the producer was, you heard like the intro and you were like, oh, I know what they're doing, they're using this and this and they're doing that blah blah blah. So being away from the game for a little while and then coming back to it, it was like I was able to sort of like listen to music and without any of that weird like masking on top of it, which kind of gave me this whole new approach where I was thinking like, what I really need to do is I need to step away from the technical barrier, which means like I don't, if I hear something that the band made, I don't want to know like, you know, uh what guitars they used. I don't want to know what tuning it's in. I don't want to know what the BPM is. I don't know. Like a lot of these kind of like little things can start to fuck with your creativity.
Mhm.
I want to be able to just hear it and just like be like a consumer. I just want to consume it. I just want to be like, I don't know, like a 5-year-old, just like, wow, this sounds cool. And
Yeah.
then from there, I can start to be a little bit more like, this part's boring. And it's boring because like it happens too many times, or like it's every time it comes into the song, it slows the song down. The pacing of the song like disappears or whatever. And those kinds of thoughts are things that I didn't have the ability to think when I was really, really busy. Being that busy is you're just more or less just thinking of like, how do I like make the drums like more powerful? And then how do I get the song done? And then how do I turn it in on time? And how do I, and so it gave me this whole other like artistic level of thinking that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
And now I have like it's cool because I feel like I have that plus the technical part of it back again. So I'm able to like pick apart a song in two different ways, whereas before I was just incapable of doing it at all. Uh and so that's been like a superpower for me. And I feel like the bands that I listen to now kind of really speak to me in a lot a more creative and artistic way than I used to be privy to or open to in the past. So now I'm very much looking forward to like being able to like express that in some projects. And Face Yourself, which is a band that I just recently worked with on Sumerian Records, is kind of one of those examples where it's like this band is basically capable of anything. They can play the fastest drum beats, the craziest blast beats, and also they have a songwriter in the band who is basically a musical genius. He can do anything that you can imagine, and they're just trying to figure out how to make music that people will listen to. But they're a deathcore band, and so it's deathcore music, and the vocalist is amazing too. She is basically able to do any kind of scream you can think of. She's also French, so she can scream in French language and she can also scream in English. And so it's kind of like this weird thing where you're like, we have all this power. What do we do with it? you know?
Right, right.
And we're constantly just trying to figure that out. And it's also a balancing act because a lot of like deathcore music kind of goes to that, let's make something like meme worthy or something that's kind of like funny, but
Yeah.
they want to be a serious band too.
Right.
So like, do you define yourself through your memes or through your seriousness? And then like through the seriousness, does it get shares and plays? And yeah,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like this weird thing where you have all the power, you have all the tools, and you have everything you need, and you're also on a label that's supporting you. So now what do you do with that? And like that's a whole problem in and of itself, right? So that's kind of like some of the projects that I've been dealing with now, where it's like we're past the point of like let's just make a really good album. It's like what do we make? um and because we're all capable of writing really good stuff and making it sound really fucking awesome. So like it's a whole new challenge in this stage of life.
It almost sounds like, I mean, the way you're describing it, it's not that it wasn't there, but it's put the love that you developed when you first started doing that, you know, as a producer for the first time, you get to do it that way again, to where time restraints are a little lighter, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge, man. And that band rips, by the way. And how cool that she's like married to Dan from Crown, and he's a
Yeah.
monster vocalist too. And
Yeah.
oh, yeah, they need to tour together.
I'm sure that'll happen, but
Oh yeah, for
you know,
sure.
it's the thing. I think the thing that we run into now is like we have, you know, three or four songwriters in the band. And so it's like one guy turns in the funny track, another person turns in the super serious track, and another person turns in something that's just kind of like completely off the wall. And we're all just like, all right, well, how are we going to vote on these three tracks? You know,
Right.
but you know, right now, I'm sure they're putting together material for me to look at, and I haven't heard any of it yet. So I'm hoping to see a a progression in the maturity of what's going on over there.
Nice. Yeah, looking forward to that. Thanks for that little insight too. We'll be watching out.
Yeah, I haven't got to listen to their album yet, but I always see her on TikTok and Instagram doing like vocal covers and yeah, they're you know, I have a hard time keeping up with all the deathcore today. Like there's just so much. I can just go through my YouTube feed and deathcore after deathcore band, and it's just. And the thing is, a lot of them sound good. And going back to what you were saying about like those over the top, like almost memeable like moments in deathcore, I think that's become like the new standard for deathcore bands today is having like that. I almost call it like shockcore to where like once someone sees it, they make the stink face or like they listen to it like what the fuck is that? But uh
There's so much good music, man. It's you could have a band that is just a group of 12-year-olds that tracked in their basement, and you know what I mean, they got a
Remnant.
100,000 followers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they got none, and it's this polished, amazing sounding work. I enjoy it. I can see to where people could think, all right, well, yeah, there's a lot of oversaturation too, but I'll take every bit of it, because to me, it's all art, and I want to absorb as much as I can, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can point to try and like generate what is the I guess the what is the reason why something succeeds. But there's one thing that you absolutely cannot argue with or deny, and that is the song. And the song is just the most, it's the place where if you get it right, you just can't deny it. You can't, and also can't stop it. If you have a really great song, it's unstoppable. And I don't just mean like a good song, like period. I mean like a good song for what it is that you're doing. Like there's such a thing as a good deathcore song, and there's such a thing as a good radio song, and there's a good,
Yeah.
we'll call it, you know, singer songwriter song, right? Like making my way downtown, walking fast. that's a good singer songwriter song. You can play that. You can cover it as a metal song. You can make a rap song out of it. You do it acoustically. You can do it on a piano, and it's going to be a great song no matter what. But there's also such a thing as a good deathcore song, which is not, that doesn't translate to piano and acoustic, but it could be like really good as a deathcore song.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can talk about all kinds of stuff, gimmicks, what you look like, what your show looks like, what your merch is, your branding, blah, 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 blah. But if you have a freaking good song and you can't stop it, it's undeniable. That's what you're going to really launch off of. That's like how you scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what everybody's looking for. And it unfortunately, there's not always a formula to it. There's not always something that you can just be like, oh, this is how you do it. Because it's art, like I'm sure in the 1800s when somebody figured out how to make a sandwich, they're like, damn, sandwiches are tight. Like,
just like that.
But right.
Just real cheap.
Yeah, like I put bread, cheese, and bread, and it's just crazy. And everyone's like, damn, you're right. That is crazy. No, but that's what I'm saying is like you constantly have to find new combinations of things and new creations in your space that get people going. And I think that's what makes music hard, but it's also what makes music fun and interesting because it never ends. You're just going to keep going for it. And like, look at Bohemian Rhapsody. Have we had anything like that since then?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
So,
no.
I would say Between the Buried and Me got close, but no.
Yeah, Between the Buried and Me is the metal extension of Queen. Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah.
Yeah, is there anybody when you mentioned like the perfect deathcore, is there anybody out right now that are in your Spotify playlist that you're fond of that?
I wish I had a good answer for that specific genre, but I could tell you more about the genre that I am currently drawn to, which is basically shoegaze and new metal. I've been listening to a couple of outliers here. I really like Vexes, Vexes. That's a good band. They got a couple of awesome songs. I actually just talked to them the other night, just randomly. One of the perks of being who I am is I can just like shout somebody out on social media and then have a call with them because everybody knows who I am.
Right, they're letting you talk to you.
Unpeople, UN people.
Okay.
Unpeople.
I haven't heard of them. I've heard of Exodus, but not them.
They're not really shoegaze, but I don't even know what they are. It's crazy music is the best way I could put it to you. It's kind of rock. It's kind of poppy, but it's kind of rock, but it's kind of aggressive. So that's really awesome. Static Dress is another one I'm listening to a lot. Bleed has an album called Bleed. So listen to that. That's really good. Overgrown is awesome. A band that I'm really obsessed with is about a band called South Arcade. They call themselves Y2K Core. It's exactly what you think it is. It sounds like you're back in the 2000s again.
That's cool.
Those are the ones that come to mind, but none of those are deathcore. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, we don't limit to that by far here, so that's cool. I'll definitely check out some of those.
We call ourselves a metal mitten, but honestly, I listen to metal about 10% during the week compared to what else I listen to. It's just Matt and I, we were in a bunch of hardcore, metalcore, deathcore bands, and metal has kind of been our thing for the last 30 years, and we still do listen to lots of metal, but we've had other people on here that weren't metal, like we had Chris Kim from Slaves and the band Slaves, and he was in a couple other bands, but he plays guitar on Twitch. Had him on. We had Lucy Viver from the UK, which, yeah, I wouldn't really call it metal, but she's like rock metal. You might even like it because it's kind of like a rap rock metal.
Nice.
And she has a lovely voice. She's I'd highly recommend checking her out.
Cool. I will check it out.
Have you guys heard of that? I just stumbled across this band the other day, and it's been all over the internet. I'm just gonna look real quick here, but you're gonna know right when I tell you. I don't even know how to pronounce this, but it's like Anjan de Portrine or Portrin, and they wear like black and white. They have like masks that look like, I don't know, almost looks like something from like Yo Gabba Gabba or something. But they play like
Oh,
this just crazy like jazz.
do you got like polka dots on them and shit?
Yeah, it's like a two-piece band.
I saw that. It's like mathcore, and yeah,
Yeah,
I know you.
it's super cool. If Joey, if you haven't checked it out, you gotta check it out. It's pretty. I'll send you something.
Yeah, send
I
it to
bet
me
you've
because
seen it.
I feel like I haven't heard that or seen that, but send that to me.
Yeah, it's wild. Like the string player is playing like a dual guitar, bass and guitar double neck. And then there's the drummer, and then they have like a pedal board with, I'm sure they're like doing like loops and stuff like that, but it's really unique. And not, it's completely out of my wheelhouse of listening, but I turned it on the other day. I'm like, I kind of like this for a change.
Yeah, it reminded me of that clowncore video where they're in like the porta potty and like he breaks out the saxophone and like they're playing blast beats, but then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it's like,
Oh yeah, like the Jared Dines deal, like with the
yeah.
jazz and deathcore.
I
Joey,
think the
oh, go ahead.
the band that takes the crown for me for the weirdest stuff is Igor. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
just really, not only is it weird, but it's also like extremely thoughtful and very well done to the point where you're just like, it sounds random, but you know it's not. And it's like, it's to the point where it's just super like out there, but it's also well planned. So yeah, Igor is takes the crown on that
I don't think I know
spectrum
about
for
that.
me.
I'll check that out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I think it's
saw
like hold on, it's like spelled really weird. It's
I think it's like IGORR or something like that.
it's three R's, IGORRR.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joey, is there any other being that you are a Michigan native, um, is there any producers that you are familiar with around here besides Nick? I know you're close with Nick. We know Nick personally too. Great
Yeah, we
guy.
got yeah, Nick Sampson worked for me for a number of years. Actually, we just got our first
Yeah,
platinum record together.
I
congratulations.
saw
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna bring
Congrats.
that
Yeah,
up.
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Huge, man.
He helped me on engineering, guitar engineering for that one. So it's cool that Rise gave him a plaque and everything.
Yeah.
And Nick and I had done so many things together. It's just too many to name. And then actually Nick is one of the reasons why I moved here. So I grew up in Connorsville and was prominently featured there when I was living there, when I was working on records and whatnot. And when I met my wife, I moved up here, and knowing that Nick would be local and a friend of mine and somebody that I could work with and I could trust gave me a lot of confidence in moving up here. Schroeder, if you guys haven't talked to him yet, you should. He's been
I
in Michigan. He's in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I've reached
Um,
out to him a little bit. It was early on though. That was probably like not long after like To the Hellfire came out.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But I should reach out to him again because I think we could have a different conversation now. Not that it was, it wasn't good.
Sure.
It wasn't the time, I think. So
Yeah, and then I've had several nicks in my in my history. We've got what do we see? We've got Nick Sampson, Nick Scott. Nick Scott is another Michigan native. I think he's over in Muskegon.
okay.
So we've got Nick Sampson, Nick Scott, Nick Pilata, who's not in Michigan, he's in Florida. We've got Nick Matskos, who's in Grand Rapids. I think there's another Nick I'm forgetting, and I'm sorry if I am forgetting it right now. But yeah, I've worked with a lot of Nicks, and we joke around that like if you work for me, your name has to be Nick.
Right. We changed it
But
legally.
yeah, but yeah, Nick Scott is another one. He does a lot of the Icy Stars stuff and worked on a lot of records with me in the 2011 2012 time period, um, extending out to like 13ish, kind of where I think we stopped working together. But yeah, and like I've just fell in love with the state. I took up boating. I got into boating and really fell in love with the Great Lakes. And just up north is such a nice treat and a gem, to have access to. And also, I live 25 minutes from DTW, so and DTW is a very large Delta hub, so you can fly like pretty much anywhere in the world in one shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really nice, and I've taken advantage of that for a number of years and want to continue doing that. It's also just like a great place to like start a family or start a life, because it's just we're in the Midwest, and there's a lot of like Midwestern culture here, which I really appreciate. I often go to LA for different shit, and like it's really hard to like what is it, like fit into that if you're if you're a Midwestern person. So I do like where I live, and I like being on the water, and I like being the weather. Some people want to complain about the winter and all that, but I think that's what planes are for. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Michigan has a nice you can get a little bit of everything in the weather, I think. It's
yeah,
nice now too. Like I don't know if you guys noticed, but like I leave kind of early for work. I come out the other day, I can hear the birds already. I'm like, all right, we're changing,
yep, yep.
so that's nice. Yeah, do you know Josh Wickman from Dreadcore Records? You ever hear him?
Yep.
We
Yep.
we know him, and let's see, is there
Chuck
somebody else?
Alkazian. Chuck, I've done a lot of stuff at Pearl Sound. It's a studio here in Michigan. It's in Canton. It's not far from
Okay,
me.
yeah, that's not far.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty big space. You can record, if you needed to do like 30 or 40 person choir or
Oh,
string
nice.
arrangement, you could fit it in there. You get big drum sounds out of there. They got a console. It's fairly nondescript. So if you have a high talent person, they're not going to be targeted. You can't really tell what the building is from the outside.
Right.
Obviously, if you drive your Ferrari there, then that's different. But
I'll leave that at home when I go.
let's see what else. We don't have 37 anymore. That studio
No.
shut down. That was in Rochester Hills.
And you were a
Um,
part of that, right? Like you
I used to
were
work
there at
out of the
times.
drum
Yeah.
room, or when I had multiple projects at the same time, I would take over several different rooms,
Okay.
just to kind of get everything going in parallel. Um, Especially when it was bigger for the space that we had space for. So, but yeah, these days I'm traveling. I have a MacBook Pro with an M3 processor, which is enough to run an entire session um, at no latency with no restraints. So I just roll up with my laptop. I got portable speakers. I got, I got a little interface and everything that I need. So I don't know.
Cool.
I just, it's easy going these days.
That's cool, man. That's good. It's nice to see. It sounds like you're settled in and doing big things all at the same time. How
Yeah,
is
and
that going for you as far as like now that since the business has grown over the last decade, is I imagine staff is growing, I'm sure you're very hands-on. You're probably putting a lot of hours in all throughout different times of the day. I know you're marketing for sure. I see you on Marketplace, man. I go on Marketplace, I'm like, there's Joey. I don't know how, but here he is.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're very in touch with I guess with what the digital marketing game, the digital marketing game, like we're very in tune with it. And I always have been. Um I invested a lot of money into like education and educating myself around sales and marketing, specifically because of these digital brands that I have control on. And I wanted to find my own way of doing it ethically, because I think there's a lot of like interesting ideas out there and some trickery, and we don't really want to do that, but we still want to be successful. So I'm always trying to find ways to like intersect with what the latest coolest trick is, but I also don't want to like I don't know, I just don't want to be cringy when it comes to marketing. So that's always a fine balance, and it's a learning process, but I think that we do a pretty good job. I try to do a good job of it. Um what's it like to grow into a bigger company? I mean, I've never had formal training to be a leader or a manager, but that is what I do now.
Mhm.
um but it's kind of like interesting in a way because it's not much different than working with a band, especially the way that we run our company. We hire creative people on purpose. Um, and sometimes it's not always the best thing for the job at hand. You might need a person who is a little bit more organized, whereas creative people are not very organized. Um, but I think what's important to us is to keep the idea and the life, soul, and heart of music alive in anything that you do. So even if you're a person that just like, let's say your job is to write the emails, I want you to be a musician. I want you to know what it's like to live and eat and breathe music when you're writing the email. I don't want to just hire an email person that doesn't know anything about music. Um, and there's been times in our history where we went away from that, and there's been times where we embrace it. And right now, every single person that works here is musically inclined in some kind of way. It's a very important piece of the puzzle. And then as far as like managing people, I have a lot of experience producing bands. So I've had experience managing people because I've been producing bands.
Gotta
Famous
pull people back
example
in
is
the corner.
getting Danny Warsnop to record vocals. So yeah. So yeah, I know how that works. And like the thing that you have to do obviously is just put people first. And life gets in the way, and just like it does for everybody. So as long as you're willing to be patient with people, I think you get to see them at their full potential. And the minute that you stop being patient is the minute that you start asking for too much. And at the end of the day, it's just another project like, JST or Drumforge or URM. These are all just projects. They're things that we do with our lives, but they're not the most important thing in life. So it can suffer a little bit here and there if it needs to, when somebody needs the extra time to, I don't know, spend more time with their family, or get well from being sick, or whatever it is. Take a break. I take breaks too. It's important.
Oh, it is for sure.
All right,
Yeah,
so
I think as far as you talking about like your material, whether making something cringy or not, I feel like everything that I've seen that you're putting out, um, it seems very tasteful. I think professional as always, and I I think it's working well, man. The marketing is definitely there. Like I said, we see that, and you should be proud for sure.
I've
yeah,
been fortunate to work with like a lot of the same people for a very long period of time. The guy who is our current sales and marketing consultant started off writing blogs in 2000 13 or something. So the guy's been with me for a long time, and now he's very good at sales and marketing, and uh didn't just work for me the whole time, worked at really big companies, and was able to bring that knowledge and that experience into what we do. Uh, and we have a lot of people in the team that have been here for 7, 8, 9 years. So it's cool. We're like a little small family, and we just love what we do. And I think everybody understands the vision. That's the other piece, is that there's a lot of companies that can never make that connect with their employees, or with their staff. And we've been able to make that very clear and get a lot of people, if not everybody, completely on board with what we're trying to do. So that's, I think, the magic of what makes it all work, is that everybody understands their place, but also appreciates everyone else's place, and also what we're all doing as a collective. Um, and I couldn't be more proud than I am for what we do and how we do it. So I don't know. I just feel really blessed, really fortunate. I'm just stoked to be in the situation I am in, and I appreciate it every day.
That's cool, man. Yeah, it's that's great.
yeah, what you've done with Nailed on Mix is something really unique.
Yeah,
I was a member for a few months, and then I stopped using it for a few months, and I canceled my subscription. But I was in my DAW, and I'm like, oh, I can't use Frequency Sniper now, so I'm gonna have to resubscribe now. But I do like the setup, and I like the fast track section. I used it to learn more about limiters and compressors and like all the nerdy stuff that I've been putting off for years. I finally went in there and learned quite a bit about it. And that whole idea of getting to sit with the producer and see what they're doing, and I don't know, it's like a shopping mall on that website. There's so many directories and places you can go. You can spend quite a while in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I just finished filming a new fast track, which is right now, where I'm calling it "How to Fix Bad Vocals." Um, I don't know what it'll end up being called on the website once it gets passed through all the hands, but my whole thesis of the fast track, and it's a 9-part series, is like how to edit, pitch correct, time correct, like basically take any kind of vocal, like whether it's just recorded through like a SM7 or SM57, and like turn it into a really well edited, polished vocal. I show all the different techniques of how I do that. But that's an example of like what the fast tracks are all about. Is like, it's a deep dive, but it's quick.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you can kind of consume it I think my running time for that fast track right now is somewhere in between like 100 minutes. So in 100 minutes, you're gonna learn like everything you need to know about editing vocals, which is like pretty wild. So yeah, it's a cool feature, but that's that's what the not it doesn't come with nail the mix, comes with a level above that. Um if you're a nail the mix subscriber. But yeah,
Hell yeah.
exciting stuff.
Are you able to like some of your subscribers for that? Have you seen such talent to where you've reached out to them on the side?
Yeah, actually, this is something we don't talk about a lot, and we need to figure out a better way of doing that. But we've had lots of people from our membership become full-time employees at big studios.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Right. So you're kind of paving the way for, in a sense, for some people. I mean, within
We
their
we've
own
done
talent.
it. We've done it like passively, to the sense like when I say passively is like somebody was a student or a member for a while, went on to work for somebody, and it wasn't a direct placement. It was just like that just happened. But we've also done it as direct placement. Like we'll have somebody like Jens Bogren come to us and say, "Hey, I need somebody to help me do this, this, and this. Can you find me someone?" And we go into our membership and we literally like find someone, vet them, and place them. So we've had indirect and direct placement, but we don't ever really like preach that. It's kind of a complicated thing to do, but we want to do it. We need to like be better at about it, but
Yeah. You're like an
it
employment
happens.
agency.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. Like it's like this is the place to. It's like we're cultivating a community around this obsession of audio excellence and like audio knowledge. And so I think that um there's a lot to talk about there, but I'm just happy to be the catalyst for that. That's all I could ask for. And I think we've done a really good job.
Yeah, nice. It so with you being an instrumentalist yourself, do you still play?
I do. So I just launched a solo project in January, where I'm doing everything from drums, guitar, bass, and vocals, songwriting, mixing, mastering, producing. So it's the Joey Sturgis experience, if you will. And I'm calling it Never Here. So you can check that out on Spotify if you just search for Never Here. The first song that we have, or that I have, I say the word we, I mean me. The first song I have is called Another End. Um, it's kind of like a hard rock, grunge rock kind of vibe.
Okay.
Is that the
Something I've never done before. But I like shoegaze and I like Nirvana and I like Foo Fighters. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it sounds like that, but it's like
Inspired.
knowing
Maybe.
it's inspired by a lot of those things. Yeah.
is that
Okay.
is that clip that you have on your Instagram where like the camera is up high? Is that like a preview of some of it?
So that's just me and my friends covering songs that we like.
Oh,
I know what
okay.
you're
Oh, that's
talking
cool,
about.
man.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was really
Yeah.
cool. That was a cool video. I liked the camera lens or however you were getting that effect.
Yeah. But shout out to my friend Jacob Mooney, who is a pretty popular drummer on Instagram. He's behind all those videos. He's the one that like has the camera, knows how to do the angle and sets it all up. And then we basically just we drive over there, we get drunk and we do songs together, and it's fun.
That works.
Cool, man. Is there any other bands that you've been a part of in the past, as far as long-term projects or just garage bands, whatnot?
Not stuff that you would be able to find, but I was in a band for a long time when I was way younger. Before I even graduated high school, I was in a band called Fade Away.
Okay.
And then after I graduated high school, I was in a band called Coraline. Um,
Cool. That's cool.
you
Was
won't
one of those a
find
grind band?
I was also in a no, I was also in a band called Mutilated Remains. That was a grind band.
Okay. I read about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, MySpace swallowed all of our stuff.
Same.
So you can't find you can't
Yeah.
find like any of it. Like you can't find like the Coraline stuff, you can't find that. Mutilated Remains, you can't find that. And then Fadeaway exists, but it's not online. So you need to like have a CD. And there are CDs out there. Uh I have a few. My mom does, for example, but like you're not, I don't know, you're not gonna like go to the store and buy it. So
Did you did you produce all that stuff too?
no, I produced Mutilated Remains and I did not produce Fade Away. Actually, my uncle produced that.
Okay.
What was the other one? A Coraline. I produced Coraline, but that the sad thing about the Coraline thing is like we did like an 18 song album and we were like halfway through it and it was on my computer and my there was a point in time where we moved and we put all the stuff in storage and my parents didn't pay the storage bill so the storage unit company um put our entire unit on auction
Oh,
and we lost, so I lost all of it. I don't have any of the files, I don't have the CDs, I don't have the hard drive, it's all gone.
ugh.
So yeah,
That sucks.
that's what killed that band basically.
Yeah, along with many others, I think it's very similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you venture downtown at all ever?
Oh yeah. There at least once a week. I love downtown Detroit. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Lots of new restaurants and cocktail bars and
Yeah,
stuff popping up. There's always a show in town. So, living here has been really awesome for me. When I was, back in my hermit days of just being in the studio all the time, I never went out to shows. And now I get to go to a show almost every other week. So I'm very like in touch with the scene and the community. And I think that that's like another really important piece of like being involved in the music creator uh journey.
yeah,
And yeah, I love the access. I love just because almost everybody comes through Detroit. If they don't, they go to Grand Rapids. And
mhm.
but I skip those shows because that's too far. It's like three
Yeah.
hours.
So do
You
we.
get mad like Sean and I.
Yeah.
We get mad. We're like, what?
Yeah, yeah. Like
I get it though. Like I've seen bands do both. I've seen them come through on a Detroit tour, and then the next tour they hit Grand Rapids, and I understand that. I heard from what our last guest said that it's a pretty big scene out there in Grand Rapids too. So
yeah, they're hitting up
I understand
Lansing
that.
too now. Like I see lots of bands going to Lansing, and I never used to see that. I'm like, wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and there's a weird venue that I just found out about. I think it's in like I'm gonna butcher where it is. I don't want to say where it is because I forget exactly, but it's like it's around like an hour from here, and it's not quite as big as the Clarkston venue, but it's still an outdoor amphitheater.
Oh, Meadowbrook?
Freedom Hill.
Yeah, or
Freedom
Freedom Hill.
Hill. Freedom Hill. Yeah, Freedom
Yeah, it's
Hill.
almost like a miniature Pine Knob, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a miniature pine knot. And I've seen some like Jarris Johnson went there.
Hmm.
Uh Dance Gavin Dance was there. Like I've seen some random, I was like, oh, that's what the hell
Yeah,
is this
that's pretty
venue?
cool.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
Paramore there and Flyleaf, Mudvayne.
Yeah.
I like that venue. I don't. It's kind of an odd drive, but like it's a nice venue.
Yeah.
You ever been to the Token Lounge?
It doesn't ring a bell. I've heard of it, but I don't think I've been
Yeah.
there.
So that spot, it's like it'd be like if you went to a bar that had a more than average stage. It's still small, still very bar vibe, but you get some cool some old schoolers that'll go through there, yeah, like Johnny Five will come through there on like his solo stuff and play there, or Buckethead's been there. It's a cool spot to watch if you wanted to see somebody up close that you don't. Um, they get a lot of like old school what's his name, like Derek St. Holmes from Ted Nugent and stuff like that. Old hair metal guys come through there, but if you're ever looking, that's not that far from you either. That's Westland's
Yeah,
probably
we're seeing stuff like that at District 42, which is in
yeah,
Wyandotte. So, yeah,
yeah,
Sebastian Bach was just through there.
yeah, they're venturing out. They were doing mainly like it seemed like cover acts. Matter of fact, tonight, did you see tonight? I think is like the Family Values tribute. It's like Limp Bizkit, Corn cover, and Deftones or something.
I did not see that, but
Yeah.
that's funny.
Lots of tribute bands go through there.
Yeah, big ones too. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think people realize, some of those tribute bands are like international or nationally touring
especially the Van
bigger
Halen
bands.
Jump. That band
Yeah.
Jump is really big.
Yeah.
But I saw
But look,
them.
you got all the remains coming there.
Oh yeah, yeah. All that remains. Born of Osiris.
Yeah, I don't
I
remember
forgot the
that
other bands that
one.
are on that bill.
So that's cool to see that growth. Yeah, man. Honestly, it's been a pleasure to have you on, and I appreciate you coming on, and it's nice to hear about just your journey along the way. It's nice to hear that producing isn't, a thing of the past for you. You still get to go down that road if you choose to, and um, just sharing the knowledge with your company as you do within the company and as you have on the show here. I think it's uh, it's appreciated for sure.
Yeah, and I want to continue the growth of the Michigan scene. I got to work with a lot of bands from here, like For the Fallen Dreams and We Came as Romans were both Michigan natives when they came over,
Yeah,
and that's back when I was in Indiana, so they were coming down to me and working with me there, and so I come up here and I want to grow the Michiganders, the Michigan
Yeah.
scene. So
yeah, for sure, man.
um,
Yeah, maybe we'll see you on the water sometime
Mhm.
within the vicinity and catch you around maybe a local show or something. And
I usually go down the Asabo River up north once a year.
oh yeah, that's nice. A lot of people like canoe or like what do you call that? Like tube
Yeah,
the Asao.
yeah, too. But we also go out on Lake Erie sometime, and that's fun. Uh, yeah,
yeah, that's my stomping grounds is Lake Erie and Detroit River, and then I make my way over to Put in Bay.
nice.
Oh yeah,
Oh
Woodland
yeah,
Bay is a
Yeah,
blast, man.
yeah.
Had you like before you lived up here, had you ventured that way before, or was that kind of new to you?
No, it was all new to me. I first and foremost moved to Michigan because of my wife, and then obviously my friend helped Nick Sampson.
Yeah,
Just knowing that he was here too was awesome. And then as we lived here for a while, you as you do, you get bored and you get into boating and whatnot because there's so many lakes here.
yeah.
And started off in Wampler's Lake,
Oh
and
yeah,
then yeah, and then just outgrew that. Went on to Lake Erie, and then yeah, just expanded from there. So we're pretty deep into the boating community here. Love being on the water and just spending time in the nature, and Michigan's a great state for it. And been up and down Lake St. Clair, Detroit River, Lake Erie. Haven't made my way to what is that? Huron.
oh yeah,
yeah.
Haven't got that far yet, but I'm sure I will at some point.
yeah. It looks from what I've seen of it, it looks super clean.
Yeah.
Not that Lake Erie doesn't like. the
Well,
more
if you're at the
south on
northern end,
53.
it's absolutely beautiful.
Yes,
When
I
you're on the
agree.
southern end, it's a little different,
Yeah,
but
it's a
the
little.
northern end is great.
You ever go to the island? I
Which
believe
one?
that's what they call it. I don't
Oh, they
know the
just call
actual
it the
name.
Be
island.
specific with that.
Yeah,
No.
it's like literally almost straight across from roughly where you stay. And it's just this island that people pull up to. I don't think there's anything like there's nothing, it's like inhabitable, but people just park there and party.
We have a few of those. There's like Sugar Island and Celeron Island and a couple different ones around here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so there's like this, local sort of like uh, we'll call them the island community.
Yeah.
um, but I'm more of the anchoring community. So the people that I boat with, we usually go out to either the cross dikes or what's it called? I can't think of it right now, but it's when you go up the Livingston Channel and then right where it expands, you go to the left. I can't think of the name of it, but a lot of people will go there, and what we do is somebody becomes the anchor, and then we all tie off our boats to
That's
each
cool.
other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
So
so
you
we
can just
spend a
kind of
lot of
like
time
bounce
out there.
around.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, you had me thinking of something there with I was gonna tell. Oh, have you ever been to Toledo Beach Marina, the sandbar? It's like a little
Toledo
restaurant.
Beach Marina.
Yeah, it's in like to drive to it, you would are you familiar with like Telegraph, Monroe Street?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you can get to it from Telegraph. You go to like South Otter Creek. South Otter Creek is an exit on 75, but it's in that area, like LaSalle, Erie, close to that part of
I feel like
Michigan.
I've seen it on a map, but I don't know if I've ever pulled up to it.
Yeah, you got to go there, man. It's like it's sort of like a JP McGuire's or something like that, but
Okay.
it's like outdoor tiki bar. You can dock and they have decent food and live music all the time. They have a bunch of cover bands that go in and out of there. They're pretty big in the boating community there too. They got their own. There's two different yacht clubs out of there too. I can't remember the name of the other one, but yeah, look it up. I'll send you that name just so it's fresh on your mind. Maybe you could check it out this summer because it's a good summer spot. Even if
Absolutely.
you were going
That's
to put
one of
in
the
May,
reasons
you could
why I
like,
love the water around here is that there's just so much uh activity and so many things that you can go to and do. Um I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the hot hole, but it's
oh yeah,
yeah.
Mhm.
I sadly I couldn't get there this year. That I think the water level has been too low. I bottomed out a few times and I gave up. But yeah,
yeah, that's kind of a
it's
unique experience, right? When you know why
it
it's the hot hole.
yeah. I brought a lot of rock stars there. When they have a day off in Detroit, I'm like, all right, get on the boat. We're going to the hot hole.
Right. They're like, so why is the
Uh,
water warm? Well, you see,
I
well, you
pissed in
see,
it. No.
there's a
the
nuclear
coal plant
reactor.
is right. Yeah. No, it's cool. Everybody knows that spot, man. That's been there a long time for sure.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, man. Well, thanks a lot, man. I think we're gonna get off here and I'd like you if you could you want to put some plugs in for people to find you that don't know maybe
Absolutely. So I'm just the easiestly Googleable,
right.
Googleable, Googleable. You can Google
Google.
me. That's what I'm trying to say. Just type in my name into Google, you'll find everything. But the biggest thing that I'm doing recently that's new is we've been doing events. So Joey Sturgis Tones events. We actually have one coming up. I don't know when this episode goes live, but we have an event coming up in about 20 days. And
Okay.
it's not in Michigan, it's in California, but it's a mixing workshop where I am going to be opening 2 of my mixes. I'm going to open 2 different mixes and show you everything I did from start to finish on one day. And then the next day, I'm going to actually mix 3 songs from scratch. And the songs are going to be from the people who buy tickets. So you can learn everything that you need to know about that on our Eventbrite, or you can just go to joeysturgistones.com/events and find more information there. We've done a couple events across the US in the last like 6 months, and they've all been really successful, really awesome events. Every event is different and unique. We're just doing, we just call them like audio production workshops. They're basically like a hands-on experience for people to come into the studio and be with like-minded people and learn whatever it is that we're teaching that time. We've been teaching drum production techniques. We have something coming up later this year where we're going to be teaching some guitar engineering skills. I've got my mixing workshop. There's going to be more stuff like that. So keep an eye on JST events.
Nice. Yeah. Well, and Sean and I as well will definitely look into that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do one in Michigan at some point, but I think I've just got to figure out what the area wants. That's another thing that we do with these is that we kind of tap into the community and figure out what is the learning gap, or what is the type of event that the community wants, and then we try to figure out the best way to throw it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
Well, let us know if we can help in any kind of way. We'd be glad to. So,
will do.
all right, man. Well, there you guys have it. Joey Sturgis. We appreciate you, man, and everybody have a good night. And we appreciate you watching. And we'll see y'all soon.
Have a good night, everyone.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Sure. Thank you.